When Kak Nozaki, a 77-year-old billionaire, tied the knot with 22-year-old Saki Sudo, the news sent shockwaves across Japan. A marriage with a 55-year age gap was surprising enough, but what followed left the nation stunned. Nozaki's sudden death just 3 months later under suspicious circumstances. This tragic end raised numerous questions. Was it a case of love, betrayal, or something even darker? Nozaki's life story was anything but ordinary. Born in 1941 in Tanabe City, a serene coastal town in Japan's Wakayama Prefecture, he came from humble beginnings. As one of 7 siblings, his early years were marked by financial struggles and a restless personality. Dropping out of school to assist in his family's liquor store, Nozaki showed an early fascination with wealth and an uncanny determination to climb the social ladder. He began dabbling in unconventional ventures, including debt collection. This was no ordinary business. His methods were harsh, and his interest rates exorbitant. Long before Japan enforced strict lending regulations, Nozaki thrived as an unregulated loan shark. This questionable path earned him enemies and frayed relationships, including with his own family. Yet, it was his knack for real estate investments that later solidified his fortune, making him one of the wealthiest men in his region. Despite his immense wealth, Nozaki was perhaps better known for his extravagant lifestyle. Dubbed the Don Juan of Kishu, he had an insatiable appetite for women, claiming to have spent billions of yen on romantic pursuits over the years. His autobiography, published in 2016, detailed his exploits and philosophy. He believed that sex was the true meaning of life. He even described his bold approach, offering cash to women who caught his eye. By his own admission, he pursued over 4,000 women, both paid and unpaid, throughout his life. But wealth and pleasure came with a price. Nozaki made many enemies, and his flashy ways often placed him in harm's way. In 1998, he survived a stabbing by an acquaintance, a stark reminder of the dangers of his risky lifestyle. Even so, by 2017, Nozaki was in his golden years, seemingly content to live out his days surrounded by luxury, his loyal dog Eve, and the memories of his colorful past. It was during this time that Nozaki met Saki Sudo. She was a strikingly beautiful young woman from Sapporo, with an ambitious streak and a penchant for luxury. Born in 1996 to relatively affluent parents, Sudo grew up enjoying the finer things in life. Her early years were marked by shyness, but as a teenager, she developed a fascination with beauty, money, and social status. Pursuing a career as a beautician, she eventually moved to Tokyo, reportedly following a romantic interest who worked as a bar host. Their meeting, as the story goes, happened at Haneda Airport, where Nozaki staged a fall to grab her attention. The gesture worked, and the two quickly became an item. Within months, they were married. Nozaki, ever the romantic, showered her with gifts and promised her a life of leisure. He even signed a contract relieving her of any household responsibilities, granting her a monthly allowance of 1 million yen. To outsiders, it seemed Nozaki had finally found his ideal companion. However, not everyone was convinced of Sudo's intentions. Friends and acquaintances noted that she appeared detached and focused on material gains rather than genuine affection. Still, Nozaki seemed happy, often photographed with Sudo and his beloved dog Eve, enjoying quiet moments of domestic bliss. But this happiness was short-lived. On May 6, 2018, tragedy struck when Eve died unexpectedly. Nozaki was heartbroken, describing Eve as his closest companion. Strangely, the dog had shown no signs of illness before its sudden demise. Just 18 days later, Nozaki himself was found dead in his home, slumped on a couch. The cause of death was acute stimulant poisoning, a lethal dose of drugs that Nozaki had long expressed a disdain for. The circumstances surrounding his death were puzzling. Surveillance footage revealed only 2 people in the house that day: Sudo and a trusted cleaner who had worked for Nozaki for over a decade. While the cleaner had no discernible motive, suspicion quickly fell on Sudo. Her behavior after Nozaki's death did little to alleviate doubts. Reports indicated she was emotionless at his funeral, even seen playing games on her phone. Authorities began piecing together clues. Sudo's internet search history showed she had researched stimulants and drug suppliers weeks before Eve's death. Traces of narcotics were found in the kitchen and vacuum cleaner. Investigators also discovered her contact with a known drug dealer, further implicating her in the scheme. Yet, despite these findings, the evidence was largely circumstantial. An autopsy on Eve's remains proved inconclusive due to decomposition, and there were no direct witnesses to link Sudo to the crime. Still, her actions following Nozaki's death raised eyebrows. 2 months after his passing, she held a shareholder meeting where she appointed herself president of his company, awarding herself a substantial salary and bonuses. By 2021, Sudo's behavior had become increasingly suspicious. She made plans to leave Japan for Dubai, a move authorities believed was an attempt to escape legal scrutiny. Acting quickly, they arrested her before she could flee. Even in custody, Sudo maintained her innocence, insisting she loved Nozaki and had no role in his death. But her story had glaring inconsistencies. Data from her phone's health app contradicted her claims about her movements on the day of Nozaki's death, suggesting she had been near him during his final moments. As the case unfolded, public opinion remained divided. Some saw Sudo as a cunning gold digger who manipulated Nozaki for his wealth. Others viewed her as a scapegoat, a young woman caught in a whirlwind of suspicion and tragedy. Nozaki's death left behind a frozen empire worth billions, with no clear heir in sight. His family, estranged during his lifetime, now had a chance to reclaim his fortune if Sudo were found guilty. But with her trial still pending and critical evidence lacking, the truth about Nozaki's death remained shrouded in mystery. As the investigation into Nozaki's death gained momentum, public fascination with the case only deepened. The sheer scale of the mystery, combined with the high-profile personalities involved, made it one of Japan's most talked-about scandals. While the evidence against Saki Sudo seemed compelling on the surface, it also raised a critical question. Was this a perfect crime? Or was the truth more complex than it appeared? One of the most damning pieces of evidence was Sudo's search history, which showed she had actively sought information on stimulants and drug suppliers just weeks before Nozaki and his dog Eve met their untimely ends. Investigators uncovered messages exchanged between her and a known drug dealer, painting a picture of a woman who may have been plotting something sinister. Traces of stimulants found in the kitchen and even in the vacuum cleaner further strengthened the theory that she had access to and possibly used narcotics in her husband's food or drink. However, Sudo's defense team pushed back, arguing that the evidence was circumstantial at best. They claimed the stimulant traces could have been left by someone else, or been there long before Nozaki's death. Moreover, the dealer she was in contact with had a history of providing beauty supplements, creating a sliver of plausible deniability. Beyond the forensic details, Sudo's behavior remained a focal point of the investigation. Her emotionless demeanor at Nozaki's funeral sparked outrage among the public and led many to question her innocence. Media coverage of her actions, like playing games on her phone during the funeral and avoiding direct questions from reporters, painted her as cold and calculating. Some argued that her casual attitude might simply reflect cultural or personal differences in expressing grief. Still, for many, her lack of visible mourning was difficult to reconcile with her claims of love and devotion. The financial motives were equally glaring. Shortly after Nozaki's death, Sudo wasted no time consolidating control over his business empire. In a bold move, she hosted a shareholder meeting at his estate and appointed herself president of the company. She also awarded herself an annual salary of 150 million yen, along with a personal bonus of 40 million yen. Her actions fueled suspicions that she had always intended to profit from the marriage. Interestingly, those close to Nozaki revealed that he had been contemplating divorce in the weeks leading up to his death. Friends noted that he had asked for support in breaking the news to Sudo, fearing her reaction. There were even reports that Nozaki had already started seeing someone new, further complicating his marriage. If Sudo had learned of these plans, it might have provided a strong motive to act preemptively, securing her financial position before being cut off. Despite the mounting evidence, the case faced numerous challenges. Poisoning cases are notoriously difficult to prove, especially when so much time has passed. The delay in investigating Eve's death further weakened the case, as her decomposed remains yielded inconclusive results. Without concrete proof linking Pseudo directly to the administration of the poison, the prosecution struggled to build an airtight case. In the years following her arrest, Pseudo remained under heavy scrutiny, but progress on the case was slow. Japanese legal proceedings often take years to resolve, and this case was no exception. While authorities kept her detained, speculation grew about her possible release or extradition attempts. The lack of updates frustrated both the media and the public, leaving many to wonder if justice would ever be served. Meanwhile, Nozaki's family, estranged during his life, saw a chance to reclaim his frozen assets. If Pseudo were found guilty, his wealth would likely revert to his relatives, who had long harbored resentment toward his hedonistic lifestyle and his disregard for traditional family values. However, even this outcome was uncertain, as Nozaki had made no clear provisions for inheritance in the event of his wife's conviction. The legacy of Nozaki became a point of reflection for many in Japan. Here was a man who had built an empire through unconventional means, living a life filled with indulgence and controversy. Yet, in the end, his wealth and fame could not shield him from tragedy. His death became a cautionary tale about the perils of excess and misplaced trust. As for Pseudo, her story remains shrouded in ambiguity. Was she a young woman who saw an opportunity to secure her future and took it, or was she simply misunderstood, caught in the crossfire of an elaborate narrative? Public opinion remains divided, with some rallying behind her claims of innocence and others firmly convinced of her guilt. The case also highlighted the limitations of the justice system in dealing with crimes involving wealth, power, and influence. With no clear resolution in sight, it stands as a haunting reminder that even in a nation as orderly as Japan, some mysteries remain unsolved. Before wrapping up this tragic tale, one must ask, could more have been done to protect Nozaki from the circumstances that led to his death? Did his own lifestyle, choices, and relationships create the perfect storm that ended his life prematurely? Or was he simply the victim of a calculated plan by someone he trusted most? If you've followed this story closely, you'll know it raises more questions than answers. Whether justice will prevail or the truth will remain buried is a question only time can answer. For now, Nozaki's life and death continue to captivate and perplex, leaving an indelible mark on those who've heard his story. Thank you for staying with us through this chilling tale. If you're fascinated by stories like these, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell for more intriguing mysteries. Together, let's explore the truth one story at a time. Stay safe, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.